Welcome back to another video here at DFD Mastery. I understand that as a real estate investor, one of our number one struggles is how to consistently find properties at a massive discount. And that is what I help people with, is how to find properties at a discount. I share my exact strategy that we use to find off-market properties at massive discounts. I go into great depths on it and how it works and what we do on our free webinar. Go to dfdmastery.com, sign up for the next live webinar, and I'll see you there. There's also notes in the show notes, a link to actually register for that webinar. But in the meantime, I want to talk to you guys about CRMs. A CRM is a customer's relations management system. What we identify as a customer's relations management system that works in our business manages three different tasks for us. They a lot of times can do much more, and the system we uses does much more than that for us. But there are only three main things that you really need it to do. So I wrote these out. The first is a calendar system that tells you about the conversation that you last had, what you need to talk about, what the follow-up call is going to be, and when it needs to be. So it needs to have a good calendar system. Next is it needs to be able to track where the lead was generated from. So right now in my business, I have lots of different marketing channels. Of course, our number one main marketing channel is Driving for Dollars, but we do multiple different strategies, and we've done different strategies that we don't market to anymore. But there's still postcards out there, and I've done deals that I sent a postcard a year ago. Someone kept that postcard, called me on it, and wanted to sell me a property. And you want to know where those deals came from so you can allocate the expenses and the income to different marketing channels, so you know what is a profitable and what is a not profitable marketing channel, right? So you want that to be tracked. Where are all those deals coming from? Next is you want to be able to track the income. Just like I said, knowing where those deals will come from, we'll be able to track revenue. So you want to know how much money you're making every single deal that closes, and being able to have that expense and income report. So I'm going to show you a completely free resource. If you're just getting started, I'm going to sit down on my computer and you guys can see exactly how I would set up if I was starting all over, how to do it for absolutely free. And then I'm also going to share with you the system that we are using that is not free, but I'll get you links in the show notes for what we use. So come along with me and let me help you. All right, so let's jump into the free CRM. So remember, you want to be able to keep track of what you talked about, what was mentioned, and what you need to talk about in the follow-up call. You want to make sure you write down where the lead came from, what marketing source, as well as what list. And then, if the deal closes, you want to be able to track the income. So let's do those three things right now. So what I would use is Google Calendars. It's absolutely free. To be able to set this up, you're going to need a Gmail account. So this isn't the main Gmail account or the Google Calendar system that I use. But what's really cool is over here, you can create multiple different calendars and turn off or turn on one calendar at a time. So on my personal, I didn't want to show all my events and things, so I'm just using an email that I use that I don't run my calendar system off of. So if you want to create a CRM calendar, so what you do is you create a new calendar right down here, right? And you would name it CRM or Mike Home Buyers, or whatever your business is called, right? We'll just call it that. And create calendar. Okay. So right here, if you go backwards, there it is, it's right there. So you can, like I said, turn on and off different calendars. So the CRM. So let's go over here and click on month. So now you can see everything that you have for that entire month. So let's say you spoke with the seller today, they called one of your postcards, you had a nice conversation, and they asked you to call them Thursday night when their husband or they were together and they could talk to you as a couple. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to more options, okay? And it's going to pull this up. So you can say talked with Sarah. And down here in the descriptions, Sarah said blah, 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 blah. Lead came from Driving for Dollars, and it was a postcard, right? That way, once this deal turns into money, you can take how much money you made and put it into your numbers, right? Which is what I call my KPIs, which will track all my income and all my expenses for every single different marketing strategy. So you want to make sure that that is kept and organized very well. The free source, it's not as automated for you, right? The paid source will auto-generate all this for you. It'll auto-generate where it came from. It'll auto-generate how much revenue you make from it, as well as, you can pull reports of how many leads were generated for each marketing channel. So there's a lot more benefits to the paid version, but when you're just getting started, bootstrapping and being as frugal as possible is super important. So you'll have those main things. You can also put the address of the property right there. So you put the address, so it'd be 123 Elm Street. Look at that. There are 123 Elm Street. So you can actually find the exact one. Oh, look, there's one in, let's say it's in Nevada, okay? So 123 Elm Street. And then you can have it, if you have I want to follow up with these people every week. You can have it weekly on Thursday. And then you can also create a custom. So it repeats. You can go through and create a custom repeatable. If you want it to be all day, let me show you what it'll look like all day. It's going to show up as a highlighted version right here. But if she said to call back at 6 o'clock, if she says to call back at 6 o'clock, you're going to hit the edit button, and you're going to go into here and put for, let's say, 6 p.m., right? 6 p.m. and it's going to be a 30-minute call most likely. So 6 to 6:30, you're going to hit save, and you can see that it's a 6 p.m. start appointment. So then you can actually run a lot of your appointments when you're supposed to meet with people. The Google Calendar system is a great resource, a great free resource to be able to run your day-to-day responsibilities, is also to help you remember when you need to follow up with someone. Something to keep in mind as well, if someone asks you to call back in 6 months, call them back in 3 months. I always split the time in half. When I do call them, I say, hey, I recognize I'm calling you early. I was just checking in. I'm in the neighborhood. I thought I should check in and just see if everything was okay. Seeing if you're still wanting to sell in 3 months from now versus any sooner than that. And a lot of the times what will happen is people are ready sooner than they think they will be. It's happened a lot of times where I've called people and they're like, oh, I'm so glad you called. I couldn't find your number. And we end up doing the deal much sooner than they expected. So keep that in mind. Hopefully this is a helpful source. Now let's get into the paid version and some of the bonuses that come with it. All right, now that you've seen the free source with the Google Calendar system, you can also use, if you're using Mojo Dialer, which I teach people to use to cold call, they have a calendar system as well. And that's a great system to use because when you're making follow-up calls, you can immediately move them to your calendar if they said, yeah, maybe in a month, maybe in 6 months. And so if you don't want to use Google Maps, you can use the Mojo Dialer. So if you're already using Mojo Dialer, you understand the calendar system, so just stick with Mojo Dialer. So the not free resource, which is excellent, is InvestorFuse. So InvestorFuse is a CRM system that uses Podio as a base software to run your customer's relationship management system. So what we do is we buy phone numbers for all of our different marketing strategies. So if we have multiple different marketing lists, like the driving for dollars list, the code violations, the tax delinquents, the probates, the evictions, right? Let's say those 5 are the ones that you're marketing to. You're going to have 5 different phone numbers that goes on your postcards or to your text messages. And so anytime someone calls any of those phone numbers, it automatically gets generated as a lead in your CRM. You don't have to hand plug in anything. Plus, that tracking number is tracked where it'll tag that lead as the property or as a lead from driving from dollars postcards or driving from dollars texting or code violations ringless voicemails, right? That will auto-generate in your CRM, so then your acquisition manager or yourself can go in and start servicing that lead, working that lead, creating notes on that lead, and be able to follow the process all the way through. There's a link in the show notes to get the InvestorFuse. We like the one, they have InvestorFuse 2.0 and they have InvestorFuse the first version. We prefer the InvestorFuse first version. That's what we're using. So if you'd like to check that out, go to the show notes, click on the link, and get access to the CRM system that we are currently using. So hopefully that was helpful. Like always, if you need more help and want to learn more about how to find discounted deals, make sure you check out that free webinar. It's also in the show notes. Make sure you like, subscribe, and leave comments or questions that you might have so I can create more content for you and help you. Thanks for following along.